Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we are continuing our ongoing coverage of the war between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. But before I start to talk about the ongoing war, just a quick housekeeping note. I will be away until most likely Saturday. So today is Tuesday, most likely Saturday. My boy is graduating basic military training, and I will be heading south to watch that graduation ceremony, and then he will be off to advanced training for another essentially half a year. So that's that is why I will not be around again until Saturday. So we'll definitely get some more content up there around Saturday. And then maybe while I'm down south in that area, maybe I'll create some content as well. Not promising anything, but we'll see. So first and foremost, we are starting to see signs that, or additional signs, that the Russian military is planning for a prolonged conflict. Not just a year, quite possibly up to 2 years, possibly up to 3 years. Additionally, we're starting to see a uptempo in Russian recruitment strategy. I talked about in prior months the Russian armed forces were increasing in strength by 20 to 25,000 personnel, meaning 20 to 25,000 personnel per month were entering military training. Now, we have information that during the month of September, last month, more than 50,000 Russians signed up for military service. Over the course of the year, more than 335,000 Russian personnel have signed contracts. These are not conscripted forces, but contracted forces. We guesstimate that we don't even know what that number is in terms of conscripted forces, but it probably exceeds the actual contract personnel. The end strength of the Russian military right now is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1.5 million troops. Now, that is not all the ground forces of the Russian Federation. That is also the naval forces and the air force of the Russian military, as well, and the strategic rocket forces. Now, currently, the end strength of the Russian Navy is about 160,000 personnel, which includes naval infantry forces. And then the Air Force is around 165,000 personnel as well, with another 50,000 in the strategic rocket forces. There are also additional, maybe 20,000 in the railway troops. And we believe that if you take that 150, 160, and the strategic rocket forces, and subtract that from the 1.5 million, that is probably going to be the end strength of the Russian ground forces. At the end of the day, the Russian ground forces will probably number by the time they hit goal, will be between 900,000 and quite possibly 1.1 to 1.2 million personnel. Now, this does not include the Russian Federal Guard Service, the Russian National Guard. It also does not include the Russian FSB, Border Patrol forces, and those of that nature. So again, an incredibly large-scale expansion of the Russian military. And then at the same time, we are seeing a dramatic increase in the funding of the Russian military. We are seeing that the Russian armed forces defense budget will now exceed over 100 billion US dollars, over 10 trillion rubles. The actual expenditures that are also not reported and classified will probably take the total Russian defense budget to 150 to 200 billion US dollars. So a vast amount of resources are being used by the Russian military to both expand its military and in R&D, research and the development of new weapon systems that are coming online as we speak. We've seen the Lancet drone go into mass production, also the Iranian drone that has been reverse engineered by the Russians and are now being deployed against the Ukrainian forces. Again, in terms of the front line, there is simply not a lot of movement. As I talked about before, the Ukrainian offensive in the south of Kyiv, has stalled. The Ukrainian forces have not taken the town of Verbova nor Novopavkovka in this area as well. If we look at the time lapse of operations, you can see the Ukrainians, and I'm going back well over a month. And you have to wonder, again, we had the initial failure that took place June, July, and then a further counteroffensive by the Ukrainians that made headway, but at the end of the day, they did not take any major towns. They took some very minor villages and quite possibly have put themselves in a fairly precarious position. There are about 7 Ukrainian combat brigades operating in this pocket. And you have Russians to the east, you have Russians to the west, you have Russian forces to the south. So again, not an ideal situation for the Ukrainian military. Now, we're going to continue to monitor, to continue to report. That's all we have for today. Again, as I talked about during the initial stages of the video, what was happening in terms of why you won't be seeing any more content until Saturday. But we shall return and look forward to making new content for you. Feel free to comment in the comment section. And as always, have a good day.